Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's been a minute. Forgive me for that, but long time no see. It's good to be here, especially on a day like today. Today is a really, really cool day. I'm in the comments if you hear me, if the audio is good, because I'm trying to respect your time. I'm gonna make sure that I don't use up a whole lot of time, but I definitely want to address the issue that anybody who is feeling any level of joy, feel as if justice has been served today, seeing how Kyle was exonerated, never should have been brought to trial in the first place. But at the same time, awesome, awesome. Everybody says they can hear me. Awesome. At the same time, I've already been dealing with this in some of my comments. I'm sure some of y'all are going to be hearing it on your timeline or in conversations with friends or family, whoever it may be. You're going to hear the typical term or discussion that, well, if Kyle had been black, he wouldn't have gotten off. Had Kyle been black, he would have been locked up and they'd have thrown the key away. And honestly, I used to feel like that. That used to be my mindset. I used to have a similar set of beliefs. But by the grace of God, once I was saved, he not only redeemed me, my spirit, he also transformed my mind. He helped me. He brought good through the reading of the word and being discipled by some really solid men of God. They helped me to think things through and to think things through in a way that, first of all, glorifies and honors God. And secondly, in a way where I challenge the common narrative that is often fed to us. So let me jump right in, y'all. Like I said, I want to honor your time today. And so for those of y'all who will be hearing that, you will be hearing this argument. I want to give you a bit of ammunition so that you can address this issue and hopefully put an end to this nonsense. Okay? Hopefully put an end to this really baseless argument. Right. What if the assailants have been black? You'll hear all about it. And we're going to jump in and we're going to deal with almost all of that. The reference I'm using is the author is Dr. John Lott, and the book is The War on Guns, Arming Yourself Against Gun Control Lies. Once again, the book is The War on Guns, and the subtitle is Arming Yourself Against Gun Control Lies. And the author is Dr. John Lott. Now, we're going to go through all this. I want making it nice and big so y'all can see what's going on here as I read through this, okay? Make this big on my screen here too so we can see what's happening. Whoops, I got to back up real quick. Forgive me. All right. Let me get to this file here. All right. So let's get going. Stand your ground law. And this was written shortly after the whole Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case. So the information is relevant. Stand your ground stands up for minorities, something that you ain't going to hear turning on CNN or MSNBC. Stand your ground laws have saved Black lives in dramatic cases around the country. 3 years ago, Darrell Stanberry of Detroit was confronted by an armed man who was trying to take his car. He told WJBK, "If it wasn't for the stand your ground law, right now I would be in jail, and my life could have been taken at that point." Or take the case of the Black Florida man in Duval County who was beaten bloody after being attacked in a parking lot. The case decided just a couple of weeks after the Zimmerman verdict was aptly summarized by headlines such as, quote, "Man says stand your ground law saves lives." So anyone who doesn't really know, stand your ground law was the case it wasn't even used in the George Zimmerman trial, but it's basically the self-defense law in the state of Florida. Let's move on. Those who claim racism point to data compiled by the Tampa Bay Times. Now, make sure you're paying attention all the way through. There's a lot to read. I mean, kind of a lot to read, but I promise I won't take long. But make sure you stick around to the end so you have a full, robust understanding of what's being said and the data that's being shared. Those who claim racism point to the data compiled by the Tampa Bay Times. Up through October 1st, 2014, the newspaper had collected 119 cases in which people charged with murder relied on Florida's stand your ground law. The Times, quote unquote, shocking finding: defendants who killed a Black person got off with no penalty in 67% of cases. This is greater than 50% of defendants who killed a white person and got off. Okay, like I said, make sure you stay tuned. If you stop right now, you're gonna miss the whole argument, the whole discussion. They never discussed the fact that those who killed Hispanics are even more likely to face no penalty, 80% of the time. If these results really imply discrimination, why would Florida's Hispanics be discriminated against so much more frequently than Black? Black and white victims are usually killed by members of their own race. Now, that's just statistically true. You look at the FBI Uniform Crime Report and anybody, CDC, anyone who's done any level of research, they'll point to this as being the reality. The Tampa Bay Times data shows that in cases where stand your ground was invoked as a defense, 76% of Blacks were killed by other Blacks. Now, stick with me here. It's about to get even better. Similarly, the vast majority of whites were killed by other whites. So that just verifies the data. This, however, does not appear to be true of Hispanics. Why that is, we don't really know. But we might dig into that a little bit more. But that's kind of like a side issue right now. Since Blacks are most often killing each other, sadly, but it's true, any murder is sad and traumatic. There is a flip side to the high acquittal rate. More Blacks killing each other, high acquittal rate. Keep that in mind. There's a flip side to the high acquittal rate in stand your ground cases involving Black victims. It means a lower conviction rate for the Black defendants in these cases. In fact, and here's where it really starts to get good, y'all, Blacks were more likely than whites to succeed with the stand your ground defense. The success rate was 64% for Blacks and 60% for whites. Hispanic defendants had a 67% success rate, making them most likely to be acquitted. If Blacks are supposedly being discriminated against because their killers so often are not facing any penalties, wouldn't it also follow that Blacks are being discriminated in favor of when Blacks who claim self-defense under the stand your ground laws are convicted at a lower rate than whites? And it would. Let me read that again. If Blacks are supposedly being discriminated against because their killers so often are not facing any penalty, wouldn't it also follow that Blacks are being discriminated in favor of, seeing how Blacks are the majority of those who kill each other, whether it's justified or unjustified? In this case, we're talking about justified killings in self-defense, in favor of when Blacks who claim self-defense under the stand your ground laws are convicted at a lower rate than whites. It goes on further. If this is indeed a measure of discrimination, rather than merely reflecting something different about these particular cases, why are conviction rates so low for Hispanics who raise the stand your ground defense? The figures used to support claims of racism are cherry picking from the data. Now we're going to keep going and we're almost done. The Tampa Bay Times data suggests why people who shoot Blacks and use the stand your ground defense are more likely to be acquitted. The data show that compared to whites, blacks who were killed in these stand your ground confrontations were 26 percentage points more likely to be armed with a gun, a fourth more likely out of all of them, a fourth more likely to be carrying a gun. The blacks who were killed were also 25 percentage points more likely to be in the act of committing a robbery, home invasion, or burglary. Violence, breaking into someone's house, attempting to steal or take something. And finally, robbery and home invasion typically or oftentimes, robberies has violence already inherently in the definition. And the home invasions, someone breaking in your home or burglarizing your home, attempting to break in or your property or your store, whatever it may be, there could be an easy assumption of violence, or at least a threat of that. And finally, both a witness and physical evidence are 13 percentage points less likely to be present when a black person is killed. All of these factors may explain why convictions are less common when blacks are killed. Sad reality, y'all, but we can't allow ourselves to get caught up in emotion during these conversations. We can't allow ourselves to do that. We have to address the reality of what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, due to the ugly history here in America, a lot of times us black folks are allowed to be lazy when it comes to having conversations like this. We're allowed to make assumptions. We're allowed to make assumptions where assumptions wouldn't be allowed in many other places. And it's really unfortunate because nowadays what we have with racism, actual racism, being on a steep, dramatic incline, not this made up crap that we're hearing about where everybody is racist and our country is inherently racist and every institution and every foundation is racist. Not this garbage, but we're talking about actual cases where someone is mistreating someone based on their skin color or based on their ethnicity. When we see cases like that on the decline, we have to deal with the reality that there are some people who make a living basically on things like this, and they have to keep stirring it up. So kind of lost my train of thought on that point, but primarily, like I said, I don't want to keep y'all here long. I would love to go through the comments and hear what y'all have to say, but I want to make sure that you have some information that you can share. I want to keep the video relatively short so you can take this and you can share it with your friends. We have data here, not just personal opinions, not just how I feel, not just what Pookie and Ray Ray down the street said. This is actual data from cases of self-defense where black folks are more likely to be acquitted in cases of self-defense over white people. Deal with that. So everybody who wants to argue about these cases, share this video. Find a book. Share. I'm telling you, the book is a phenomenal book. Pick it up. I highly suggest you pick it up. But over the next few days and weeks, definitely over the next few days, you're going to hear this over and over and over again. And you have to have arguments to debunk that. Now, people love to toss it aside and say it doesn't mean anything. They can do with it what they want. And I know we're dealing in times where truth is relative. That's what some people love to say, the relativists. They love to say, but we have truth on our side. Those of us who have any semblance of common sense, who actually care about facts, we have truth on our side. What do the other people have to say? What do they have to prove? A few cherry-picked cases here and there, a few anecdotal cases here and there where things like that happen. But I guarantee if they actually did some real research, they would find that things are dramatically different than what they initially believe. So make sure you like and subscribe. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, give this a like, share it, please. And hey, I'll join y'all in the chat and the conversation later on. But as always, in the meantime, stay safe, God bless, and make sure you join the conversation. I'm out.